walking on quite an additional Cosmondo Dam. I think this is working, even though it totally looks different today. Facebook and their changes. Oh my God. But I see live, so hopefully you guys can hear me and see me. That would be amazing. Mishko walking on quite an additional Cosmondo Dam. I'm Red Thunderbolt Woman of the Loon Clan, commonly known as Sandi Boucher. I'm a proud member of Seine River First Nation in Northern Ontario, Treaty 3 territory, and I'm here once again with my daily Facebook Live. And today is a serious topic for me, something I really wanted to share. And first up, there was just so many things I wanted to tell you today. So first up, the reason I'm doing Facebook Lives and not lives on YouTube or not lives on LinkedIn is because my following, my business, my career, book sales, everything started for me on Facebook. Hi, Tammy, my die-hard friend that shows up like every single day. I so appreciate you, Tammy. Way back when, even before Honorary Indian, which is my first book, was published, my daughter introduced me to Facebook, and I started sharing a little clip out of the book, a little excerpt every single day. And that's where I started to have a following and fans, and that group turned into a page, and here we are 12 years later. So today, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. First, this whole idea of unpacking that I'm always encouraging people to do. And just to explain it again, oh, Tammy, you're a sweetheart. Just to explain it again, unpacking is really like conscious living. It is stopping at different points in time during the day, during a conversation, during your life, and asking, okay, how do I feel about this? Or why am I feeling this way? What triggered this? Why did I react that way to this person? Why did I say that? It is, rather than just reacting, it is unpacking so that we can get rid of the garbage that we were taught, because we were all taught different stereotypes and things and misinformation along the way. And the more we unpack, the better those things are not, they don't continue and they're not passed on. Hi, Norman, you made it to the live this time. Awesome. So I'm always encouraging you to unpack, but I unpack daily. And often what that looks like is someone will ask me a question. I will answer the question more in that reaction frame, just giving them the information, not like reacting negatively, but I'll just answer the question. And then all of a sudden it'll hit me like, wait a minute, whoa, why did you ask that? Like, where is this coming from? Or no, I want to say something else. And that's the unpacking process. So that happened to me this week. That really led to this Facebook Live. I was on LinkedIn, which is much more a business website, a networking site for businesses and nonprofits and corporations and things. And obviously that's where I make business connections for my career. The blog post that I post first on Facebook every single morning, I then copy and repost it onto LinkedIn, and I tag many of the, and it's the same thing you do in LinkedIn, you know, where their name shows up, or on Facebook, I should say. I tag many of my colleagues on LinkedIn, people that I think either would benefit from reading the blog post, or someone who can relate because they're another actionist or another diversity and inclusion expert, someone along that lines. Hi, Cheryl. So, but what happens every now and then, and it happened again this week, someone that I tagged, someone that's on my friend list in my network on LinkedIn, will private message me and ask me not to tag them. And up until this week, I'm like, oh, sure, no problem. And I totally respect people's boundaries. And, if you'd rather I didn't, I don't. This week that changed because of the unpacking. It happened again. A woman in my network reached out and said, please don't tag me. And I was like, okay, sure, no problem. And then a split second later, I went, wait a minute. And we were talking in a private chat. This wasn't public. And I said, wait a minute, on the second thought, why? Why don't you want me to tag you? Why don't you want to see my posts? And why I was really curious is she asked me to join her network, like sending a friend request. I didn't send it to her. She sent it to me. She wanted to connect with me. And now she was saying she didn't want to see my posts. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, please explain. And the response, she deleted the connection, which is fine and dandy. And I mean, some people do just want to add a whole bunch of people for whatever reason. That's not my game. But that brought me to this Facebook Live. So why do I tag so many people on LinkedIn? And why do I write my blog posts the way I do? Because I do it with intent. It is very intentional. My entire life is intentional. And here's why. I work with many, many, many non-Indigenous people who say they would like to have respectful, beautiful relationships with Indigenous people. They don't know where Indigenous people are. And to my Indigenous followers, that's going to sound nuts because we tend to live in communities where there's Indigenous people all over the place. But I know when I moved to Southern Ontario and first I moved to Brampton, there were a lot of Indian people, but we're talking South Asian, right? It would be very hard for me to find a North American Indigenous person. And then I moved to Richmond Hill, same thing. I moved to Oshawa, same thing. I'm not saying they were there. I just wasn't sure where they were. So one of the reasons I post the way I do is to allow people to experience having a relationship with an Indigenous person. Because guess what? We're not an activist 24/7. Sometimes we're really upset, but sometimes we're just loving our kids and grandkids. Sometimes we're just being silly, but sometimes we're up to our neck in our worldview or in racist content like I had to deal with last night and what I posted in my page about. So that's why my blog posts seem to be all over the map. One day they might be personal, one day they might be silly, one day I'm just grateful, and the next day I'm like, would you please smarten up? That's what it's like being Indigenous in Canada, and by following my page, you experience that, whether on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever. Why? Hi, Sal. So why do I tag people on LinkedIn? Because often my blog posts, one, are always coming from an Indigenous worldview. I don't have any other worldview, so I have no idea what it would like to be a white male. How could I? In the same way, a white male would have no idea what it's like to be me, which is my point. By tagging people on LinkedIn, it allows people who can relate for us to group together. It allows people to think about the content. I've said it many times on Facebook. It's not about you sharing your opinion. It's about sitting and contemplating and thinking about it and maybe unpacking, because that's huge in our... Sal, no, I totally disagree with you. That may be the case in the States, and I think it is in the States. I think in the States, Indigenous people are almost invisible. We are not in Canada, and we work really hard to stay visible. I definitely work incredibly hard to stay visible. And that's my other point. Sal just made a comment that Indigenous are the forgotten minority. I disagree as far as Canada is concerned, because there's people like me that are consciously taking up space, constantly being visible, consciously being visible, so that we don't become invisible. And that's something that we are totally dedicated to. So I hope that didn't sound babbling. I just wanted to really explain why you see the variety of blog posts you do and why I make a point of sharing it across as many platforms as possible. It is not an ego trip. It is to allow people the opportunity to experience an Indigenous worldview and to see how incredibly valuable it is. Yes, Tammy, absolutely, loud and proud. Tammy, I lived in Richmond Hill also, and I have to agree with you. I'd never met another First Nation family there either, right? Like I'm certain somewhere there is, but there's definitely not a community. On the other hand, I worked in downtown Toronto, definitely a large Indigenous population. So, but there are places where that's not a given. So I don't want to slam people for not having access to a First Nation community, because it happens. But hey, you can follow my page. You can learn what it's like to be respectful and in a relationship with an Indigenous person. And by the way, there's one other comment I have to make, because I've had this happen to me, and I'm certain it happens to other Indigenous people. There are many, many non-Indigenous people who are totally comfy with being our friends and being our allies until we get angry, until we get upset. They love when we're educating. They love when we're sharing information. But if we get upset, they want us to calm down and not say those things. That's not allyship. That's not an authentic relationship, because there are things that happen that we have the full right to be upset about. Anyone would. And if you're not comfy with that, so sorry, I'm choking here. I hope that makes sense. That's my message for today. I do want to remind you that tomorrow's No Blog Saturday. I give myself a break and I don't write a blog post on Saturday mornings, but I tend to share a flashback video, and I really want you to watch tomorrow's video, especially A, if you're female, and B, if you've ever at any point in your life or still suffer from low self-esteem and low self-confidence, then you need to watch tomorrow's video, and it will be shared first thing in the morning like my blog post always is, except it's No Blog Saturday, so you get a flashback video instead. I did want to give you that heads up. Right, Cheryl? Right? Yes. See? Indigenous people know. And I love all the non-Indigenous people that follow me, because you, as I've said a million times, you're my fuel, you're my hope. You prove that there are allies out there that want to work with us. And as Indigenous people, we need that. We need, because you can still get into rooms that I can't, and until that changes, we definitely need our allies. And besides that, some of my coolest friends happen to be non-Indigenous. That's a beautiful, diverse way to live. I don't ever want to have a friend because they're a certain nationality or culture. No, I hang out with amazing people, no matter what their background is. That's the way I want to live. Okay, so I am doing, by the way, I am doing a Facebook Live tomorrow. I'm taking a break from my blog, but I will be here at noon to do another Facebook Live. And I've now babbled long enough, so I'm going to let you go. I so love your faces. Thank you so, so much for showing up every single day, for commenting on my blog posts, for showing me the love, and even being there like last night when I had to deal with those horrific comments on YouTube. Yeah, it, as I said in my blog post this morning, it can get ugly. That's the reality of being Indigenous in Canada, and we can't pretend otherwise. Allies don't pretend. Allies don't try to make it all warm and fluffy. They sit in the ugly with us until we can get out of it. Okay? Until tomorrow, I love you. Take care of you. Bye-bye.